Do you have any idea how much I have to endure while you're out during the day? My father-in-law barked from his reclining chair, his voice thick with resentment. Mother is taking care of you during the day, isn't she? I have to work, I replied, struggling to keep my tone calm. That's why I'm telling you to quit your job, he snapped. John spoils you. That's why you're getting so stupid. A proper wife would stay home and take care of her husband's parents. His words hit me like stones. I swallowed hard, forcing myself not to react. If I quit my job, I thought, I'd be trapped here, ordered around and worked to death by my father-in-law. 24 hours a day. Just the thought of it made me shudder. No, I couldn't give up my job. It wasn't much, just 4 hours a day at the pharmacy, but it was the only time I could breathe, the only place I still felt like myself. But never mind about my father-in-law. I'd expected this much from him. What I hadn't counted on was my husband. Dad can't move, so it's pitiful, isn't it? He said one evening after dinner, as I massaged my aching shoulders. You should do at least that much for him. I stared at him. But this is for your father's own good, I said firmly. The doctor said he should do as much as he can by himself. But Dad doesn't seem to think so, he replied flatly. Please do everything you can for him. He said it like a manager assigning work to a subordinate. His tone made it clear he wasn't asking for my opinion, he was just offloading his responsibility. It was then that I realized something had shifted between us. My husband, who once listened to me and cared for my thoughts, now looked at me like I was an employee failing to meet expectations. He had started to sound just like his father. From that day on, our home became a battlefield. If my father-in-law wasn't shouting orders, my husband was giving me lectures. You shouldn't talk back to Dad, he'd say. He's old. He deserves respect. Respect. That word had begun to lose all meaning. Each morning, I woke before dawn to prepare breakfast for 6 people. I saw off my husband and the children, tended to my father-in-law's endless demands, and rushed to my part-time job. After work, I'd shop for groceries, cook dinner, clean up, and help my mother-in-law with evening care. By the time I crawled into bed, my body ached so much that even my dreams felt heavy. My husband barely noticed. On weekends, when I longed for rest, he'd sleep in or go golfing with his colleagues. I tried talking to him, more than once. John, I said one night, I can't keep doing this alone. Your father is too demanding. I need your help. He sighed, not even looking up from his phone. Mom's there too, isn't she? You two can handle it. I work all week. I need some peace when I'm home. His words stung more than I expected. Do you even hear yourself? You're talking like this isn't your responsibility. I'm just saying, you're overreacting, he said. Don't make things difficult. That was how he dismissed every problem, by pretending it didn't exist. When it was just the 4 of us, our life had been exhausting but happy. Even after long workdays, John and I found time to share a glass of wine and talk about our dreams. But now, every night ended with silence. The warmth between us had frozen into something cold and distant. Then, one morning, something unexpected arrived in the mail. A thick envelope, my name written in his handwriting. Inside, neatly folded, divorce papers. I stood there for a long moment, my hands trembling slightly. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. John was away on a week-long business trip. When he returned, I held the papers out to him calmly. I'll submit these right away, I said. He looked at me, startled. Are you really okay with this, considering you have children? I'm totally fine, I said, and I meant it. Because by then, something inside me had already died. My name is Nikki. I'm 42 years old, a wife, a mother of 2, and, until recently, the silent caretaker of a man who never saw me as a person. I thought back to the beginning, how it all started so sweetly. I was 23, freshly graduated and full of hope. When I met John through a colleague's introduction, he was charming, confident, and worldly, a rising star at a major trading company. I fell for him immediately. When he proposed, I truly believed I was marrying a man who would protect me, not someone who would one day become another version of his father. We married 2 years later, and when I got pregnant, I developed complications. John insisted I quit my job for my health. You're precious to me, he said at the time, and our baby's precious too. You can always return to work later. Back then, I thought it was love. Now, I wonder if it was the first quiet step toward control. I gave birth to our son, Zach, then our daughter, Tara, a year later. For a while, life was perfect. We were young, in love, and our children filled our home with laughter. But then my father-in-law fell ill, and everything began to unravel. Unbelievable, I said, my voice trembling, not from fear, but from frustration that had been caged for years. You treat everything like it's someone else's problem. You're the one who dumped everything on me. Since you seem to have forgotten, let me remind you, you're the one who wouldn't listen whenever I tried to consult with you. My husband's expression hardened. He didn't like being confronted, especially by me. The moment I challenged him, I could almost see his ego cracking like thin glass. Is that how you speak to your husband? Know your place, he snapped, his tone rising like a whip, his voice, sharp and commanding, once used to make me flinch, but not anymore. I had endured far worse, the late nights, the humiliation, the endless caretaking, and something inside me had shifted. His anger no longer had the same power. Your loud voice doesn't bother me, I said quietly, a cold steadiness in my tone. I'm used to it, from your father and from Zach. The color drained from his face, replaced by a furious red that climbed from his neck to his temples. His glare could have burned holes in the wall. How dare you? Let me say it again, I interrupted, keeping my voice calm and deliberate. I tried to consult with you about everything, your father, the housework, the children, but you were the one who dismissed me every single time. Don't lie, I never heard any of that. His words came out fast, defensive, desperate. I didn't argue. Instead, I walked to the living room shelf, took out a small black voice recorder, and placed it on the table between us. The click of the playback button cut through the silence. From it came the sound of my own voice, weary but polite, asking for his help with his father's care. And then came his voice, flat, uninterested, muttering, "Do whatever you want." For a moment, he froze. Why did you record something like this?" he stammered. "Because I knew this day would come," I said softly. "Because I knew you'd pretend none of it happened. So I recorded it, just in case." His face twisted in rage. "This is why I hate you. That's what I hate about you. That's why I want a divorce." That was it, his grand confession, shouted like a child throwing a tantrum. Then, in one impulsive motion, he grabbed the recorder and hurled it across the room. It hit the wall with a loud crack, breaking into pieces. "There, now there's no evidence," he grinned, almost smugly, as if victory could erase the truth. I tilted my head slightly. "I wonder," I said, "if destroying property counts as violence." "What did you say?" "It's pointless to destroy that," I continued calmly. "I have backups of the data. And your current actions? They're being recorded too." He blinked in confusion, glancing around the room. "What do you mean?" "This shows how little attention you've ever paid to your own home," I said, almost laughing. "We installed security cameras because your father might move around at night without us knowing. Everything is recorded, John, including this moment." He stood there, frozen, his pride unraveling. The silence between us was so thick that I could hear the faint ticking of the clock. "So," I said finally, "will you tell me why you want a divorce? I won't agree until I understand." "Like I said," he barked, "you've disregarded me as a husband." "Is that your final answer?" I leaned forward slightly. "Because I have recordings, photos, even documents. Think carefully before you speak." His lips pressed together. He wanted to shout again, but fear had replaced anger now, fear of what I might reveal next. Finally, he muttered, "You've lost your appeal. Since we moved here, you've become too domestic. I can't see you as a woman anymore." I stared at him, then laughed, a deep, bitter laugh that came from somewhere I didn't even know existed. "You can't see me as a woman? Really? Maybe that's because I was too busy cleaning up after your father, working part-time, cooking for your family, and managing a household that you abandoned emotionally." "That's just an excuse," he said weakly. "You could have made an effort." "An effort?" I leaned back, folding my arms. "Try saying that to anyone else, and they'll laugh in your face. You left me to handle your father's care alone while you stayed late at work, or worse, stayed late with someone else." His eyes flickered, just for a moment, and that was all the confirmation I needed. I want a divorce too, I said. For a brief, pathetic second, his face brightened. He thought he'd won. However, I added, there are conditions. He frowned. What conditions? I reached into a folder and pulled out a thick file, dropping it onto the table with a thud. This. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, of him and another woman, his mistress, his subordinate at work. You were having an affair even before we moved in with your parents, I said, my voice calm, almost eerily so. That's why you wanted to move here, to dump your father's care on me so you could play house with her. His face went pale. How did you? I found out long ago. I didn't say anything because I thought maybe, just maybe, you'd realize what you had. I thought taking care of your father would make you see what family means, but you only sank deeper. I paused, then smiled thinly. So, my first condition, compensation, from both of you. He didn't answer. His silence told me everything. As for child support, I continued, I don't need it. He blinked in surprise. Really? You're serious? Yes, we'll call it even. You take Zach, I'll take Tara. He hesitated. That won't work. If you don't like it, there's no divorce. He groaned, realizing he had no choice. I could tell he was already calculating, planning to send Zach off somewhere just to be rid of him. That thought didn't even hurt me anymore. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped being able to love Zach. He had grown into a miniature version of his father and grandfather, arrogant, dismissive, and cruel to women. When everything was settled, compensation, property division, even damages for emotional suffering, we signed the notarized papers. He wired me the full amount within a week. For the first time in years, I felt light, free. Now we're strangers, I said after submitting the divorce papers. You can marry your mistress, live however you want. I'll move out once I receive the compensation from her. What? That wasn't in the agreement. Of course not, I said with a faint smile. Her compensation is separate. She helped destroy a family, she can pay for that herself. He clenched his fists, speechless. I turned to my mother-in-law, who had been quietly observing everything. Mom, would you like to explain now? She nodded gently. This house, she said, is mine. My ex-husband looked confused. What are you talking about? This property is in my name, she said firmly. Your father married into this family. Everything here belongs to me. He looked stunned, as if his world had tilted. That's not possible. Oh, it is, I said softly. Your father was adopted into this family through marriage. Your mother inherited everything. And recently, she adopted me. His head snapped up. She what? My mother-in-law smiled faintly. I've adopted Nikki as my daughter. She's cared for this household and for me. You, on the other hand, have done nothing but bring shame to it. My ex-husband turned pale. Then this house belongs to me, I said, so you can leave now with Zach. He opened his mouth to protest, but my mother-in-law's tone cut him short. Get out, John. I'm tired of seeing you treat people like servants. I want to live peacefully with Nikki and Tara. And that was it. He had no power left, no house, no wife, no family who wanted him. Days later, he packed up and left, taking Zach with him. As they drove away, Zach rolled down the window and shouted, "We'll see who ends up better off. Dad earns more in a week than you do in a month." He didn't know that his father had already been demoted for the affair. He didn't know that the glamorous life he bragged about was collapsing. Months passed. I began working full-time at the pharmacy again, something I'd once loved. My mother-in-law, now free from her late husband's shadow, started gardening every morning. Tara grew happier, brighter, free from the tension that used to fill our house. Then, one evening, I got a call. "Mom," Zach's voice said, "you must be lonely without a man around, right? I might come back if you want." I smiled sadly. "Zach, thank you for your concern, but we're doing fine. Please take care of yourself." Before he could reply, I hung up. It wasn't cruelty, it was acceptance. Some people only learn by losing everything. Maybe someday he'll change, maybe not, but I've learned that I can't fix everyone. Now, it's just the three of us, me, Tara, and my mother-in-law. Three women who survived years of silence and sacrifice. We drink tea together in the garden, watch the sunrise, and laugh about little things. Peace has finally returned to our lives. And when I look around this quiet home, I realize something simple but powerful. We didn't lose anything. We just reclaimed ourselves.